And so you mentioned, so you moved in high school or university, actually? Um,
I moved for my first year of university,
okay,
so I was an
university. Okay.
international student.
And how did you know you were interested in this field? Did you like just realize back in Karachi,
Oh,
or was it like developed when you were young that you were interested in engineering?
so for me, I had no idea that biomedical engineering was a thing
Okay.
till I think a couple months before I applied to different universities.
Oh,
So I
wow.
applied to universities in the UK and I didn't apply anywhere in the US. But I had this thing with I would always tell my mom that like I wanted to be a doctor and an engineer because it's like brown
Uh,
people stuff where it's like
yeah, yeah. It's
you have
whatever.
there's you be a doctor, you do be a banker, you be an engineer,
Yeah.
and I remember I was like, I'll just do both because I really enjoyed biology and I really enjoyed anatomy, physiology, and stuff, but I also really enjoyed mathematics and problem solving, right? So I couldn't find like a mesh for it. In Pakistan, if I stayed, I would have to do either medicine or I have to do some sort of engineering, and it's like electrical, you do mechanical, or whatever. There's no mix of it. But when I started exploring and I started looking at universities abroad, I was like, oh wow, there's actually a mix of it. There's like a biomedical engineering and there's like a medical physics thing that you could do too. It's like a mix of both. I was like looking for medical physics, but I realized that was a bit more theoretical and it wouldn't allow me to do anything. It would push me to be more of an academic versus someone who can do things hands on. And then McMaster had their electrical biomedical program, and I was like, oh, it's both. So I just got in, and so in first year of university and undergrad, you get to pick your major, and then you branch out to your stream. And then in first year, I was able to make the cut for the Elec and Biomed group of students. So then they took me into that program, and I went ahead with that.
Okay. And I guess the pros and cons for both McMaster and Ryerson, what did you find were the good and not so great?
I actually really so there's my experiences were totally different, right? My McMaster experience was like new to Canada, completely new experience, not very social, getting used to things. The McMaster University life is a little bit different too because it's more of a community. It's like a university town, so everyone around you is a student. Like your neighbors are students, your professors live in your neighborhood. I really liked the community aspect at McMaster because there were some commuters, but everybody felt like they were from Hamilton. So
Right.
there's like a bit level of like camaraderie. Everybody was super nice. The professors were super nice. There was never any, I don't think I had any issues. I was homesick obviously, but apart from that, I really liked Hamilton and the McMaster University vibe. Ryerson was different because by the time I got to Ryerson, I'd already graduated. It was just a 2 year program for my master's. And then downtown Toronto is just it's like fast. Most of the students are commuters, so you don't really have that like camaraderie
Yeah.
or like that aspect of you don't have that university town vibe. It's basically just you go to school, you hang out for a bit, and you go home. So it wasn't like I didn't feel as connected to Ryerson as I did, but I think Ryerson's experience helped me the most in my career versus McMaster's. So it's two totally different experiences. One was more like academic, you living that university life, and then the master's degree was. I didn't really feel like I was part of the Ryerson community. It just felt like I was somewhere studying stuff.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess I reviewed, you did a lot of projects, several projects. So I'm curious, which one did you find the most fun or impactful that helped later on?
Yeah, I did a bunch. Obviously, as while you're doing an engineering degree, there's projects that you have to do every year. Most students do the same projects where we do. If you're in electrical, you do microcontrollers, you do design and stuff like that. But I think my capstone project was the most fun in my undergrad, and then obviously my master's degree was basically for innovation entrepreneurship. And the purpose of the program, with the MEIE program at Toronto Metropolitan University now, is to have a business idea, create it into a startup, and see how it goes end to end. So the whole program is about that one project, your company. So I think both of those projects were my most, I would say I had the most fun because from a capstone perspective in undergrad, the idea my friends and I had was that we were going to create like a sleeve with electrodes in it that allowed folks who had like spinal cord injuries to be able to control through their phone any sort of muscular rehabilitation. They can rehab themselves like remotely, and basically you're basically able to control the motion of your hand through passing electrical pulses into your muscles. I was the guinea pig because I have the skinny
No.
arms, and like we were able to create muscle stimulators currently exist with low energy, and people use it for rehab where it just gives you little pulses and it ticks. But we used a lower voltage higher current based thing where it actually caused my muscles to contract my fingers, so I was able to hold things and pick them up. And then we were able to control it with a phone. So if you could sit at home and talk to your phone, so if you couldn't type or press, you could just speak and say, "Oh, contract," and then your hand would start closing.
Oh, that's
So that was really cool. And then obviously the applications for that are like, oh, you could remotely bypassing your brain because a lot of people with spinal cord injuries have an injury here, so a connection between their brain and their muscles get affected. So you're bypassing it by connecting your brain to another machine that's controlling your muscles. So that was really cool, I think, because we were actually able to achieve it.